Keith. I'm very excited. Loren Lahav here. Since we're spoken by Loren Lahav here. So anyway, welcome to tonight's YOLO International event. We are a group of individuals from around the world that come together for a common, amazing mission of truly inspiring healthy living around the world, but also helping people say yes to their lives. And I am forever in debt and grateful for Keith Cunningham, who has really helped me see a different perspective and understand how to really understand the amazing business opportunity that we have with Juice Plus. I attended his 4-day MBA program with my husband and made so many huge distinctions that really helped my business grow about 200 to 300% just since that program. Joss has also been through the 4-day MBA program with Keith. We had Keith on a call. Actually, when I first started the business, he offered to do a call for this organization, which was about 10 years ago. And just so many great things that I've learned from Keith about getting in line, staying in line. And he spoke at our national conference for Juice Plus in Phoenix, I think it was about 7 years ago. And so we are very grateful to have him not only on this call tonight, but truly as a mentor and a friend for so many of us around the world. He has a new book that's coming out. I hope he'll share a little bit about that. We'll also be giving away some of those books this evening. And Joss, I hope that you could just share a little bit about you about what the 4-day MBA program did for you, and then we'll introduce Keith. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always looking up to Keith. I've looked up to Keith since the first time I heard him spoke, and it made sense. But when I went to his 4-day MBA and just read the books and everything, he puts it in a way that makes it understandable, right? So it doesn't matter if you're, actually someone who went to, let's say, Harvard Business School, or, you were someone like me, a 16-year-old in high school who just wanted to know more about the language business. He makes it make sense. So I'm excited for this call. Take it away, Keith.
Awesome. Keith, we are ready for you. Are you there?
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much, Loren. You're wonderful. I love your organization. I love what Juice Plus is doing. I love even more what it stands for and the integrity of the people that are not only driving it, but also the promise that you deliver on a consistent basis. So thank you for having me on your program. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to have you with us. Keith, I think for so many of us, you represent understanding so many important things that people don't talk about, especially that of the scorecard. And I was wondering if you could just kind of give us a little bit of your background and why you see, what you've seen in business. You've been in business a long time. You've seen all kinds of businesses that last and businesses that don't last. And love if you could just give everybody an organization, an overview of why, what you see about businesses that last and why you do see this as such like you said, like it's very mission driven. But I'd just love to get some golden nuggets from you, and then also hear a little bit about your new book too.
Good. So I'm going to count on you to direct me and keep me headed the right direction here, Loren. One of the problems that I have is that when I go unscripted, which I am right now, then I tend to wander around a little bit. Those of you that have ever seen Tony Robbins speak, I can be worse than him at times in terms of staying focused and on point. Look, I'm a business guy. I have been for a long, long time. The only reason I know anything at this point is because I'm old. I'm not only old, but I've also made a lot of mistakes. I love what Bill Gates said. Bill Gates said that the problem with success is that it lulls smart people into believing they know what they're doing. And I've found over the years that I've learned way more as a result of some of the mistakes that I've made. I want to avoid making those mistakes again. Some of them were astronomically expensive, but I've learned more from the mistakes than I have the successes. I have a background in business. I've been in, as you mentioned, a number of businesses and still am. I think that's one of the things that maybe differentiates me from a lot of the other people who have written books or maybe give speeches. I eat my own cooking, and I'm not throwing up. So the stuff that I teach, the principles that I have, are all based on firsthand experience of the last 40 something years of being active as a business owner. I think that's a key distinction. I think one of the problems that most people have when they start in a business is they get stuck in either the artist mode, where they're in love with their product, they're in love with the idea, everything is about passion. If you're not passionate about it, you don't do it. So they either get stuck in the artist mode or they get stuck in the operator mode. And the operator mode is the mode where if it's going to get done, then I guess I'm just going to have to do it. The operator mode is all about doing with very little thinking or optics or leverage. And so I think the mistake and what causes people to maybe reach an artificial ceiling on their success is they run out of time. They run out of bandwidth. They run out of energy. I know, if I ask you this question, is it possible for you to make 3 times more money than you're currently making? Most of us would say, well, yeah, I mean, there is a way to do that. And yet, if I ask you if you could work 3 times longer or 3 times harder in order to make 3 times more money, the answer to that for most of us would be, no, you know what, I'm pretty well tapped out. And so the operator tends to get stuck in the day-to-day doing and doesn't do a good job of really thinking about what are the optics or scorecards that I need in order to measure my progress. Let me tell you about scorecards for a second, about optics, big picture. If I ask you to visualize how you would get from your home to the grocery store that you normally go to, the reality is most of us could visualize the route we would take when we leave our home and back out of the driveway and go down to the end of the block and turn right, go 2 streets to the stop sign and turn left. We can visualize that route. So every single one of us knows the way to the grocery store with our eyes closed. And yet, if I ask you to get in your car blindfolded and drive to the grocery store, you'd have a wreck. 100% of us would have a wreck if we attempted to drive to the grocery store blindfolded. So the key is this: we know the route, but we can't see the path. If you can't see what's going on in front of you and have optics, be able to measure your performance, be able to see where there's a ball rolling into the street or a stop sign or a car that might be pulling out in front of you, backing out of the driveway. If you can't see that stuff going on around you, then you're going to have an accident. And what happens to most operators is they don't learn the business skills and tools that would.
I'm gonna go here.
Somebody that's not muted, if you guys could please mute your line. You are interrupting the call.
Thank you. I heard that, and I was hoping you'd say that. But we tend to get stuck. And so the idea is this. I think in order to be successful in business, I do think that there's passion involved. Enthusiasm is another word for that. There's a level of excitement that's required. I think there's an operator. Somebody's got to do something. But I also think that a missing component, and it's another aspect or hat. View it as a hat. In the book I just wrote that you mentioned, called The Road Less Stupid is the name of this book. One of the chapters is on the 4 hats of business. And one of them is being a an artist being excited. Another one is an operator, and yet another one is an owner. And Loren, that's what you were talking about at the 4-day MBA. That's really my big muscle.
Yeah.
Is helping people attain the business skills and tools that will enable them to be successful in business. And when I look at you, Loren, and the success, you and I have known each other 10 or 12 years, and I think I met you before you ever started your Juice Plus business and the journey that you've been on. My God, if I look at the path that you've taken and the success that you've had, a lot of that success, no question, a lot of that success is based on your enthusiasm for the product. And a lot of that success is because of your work ethic and getting stuff done. But a measurable part of that success is also attributable to the work you've done on the business end of your business, being very clear about your priorities and the outcomes, the deliverables, getting some metrics so you can begin measuring and doing a better job of running the business into your business.
So can I talk about that? Thank you, Keith. And we've got so many amazing people on the line. We just amazing people. But here's the thing that made the biggest change, I think, for me was and maybe you can go in a little bit deeper about this, of what does it mean to separate the problem from the solutions? You know, you talk a lot about that at the 4-day MBA program. Can you talk a little bit about that with everybody?
I can. The problem from the symptom. Separating the problem from the symptom. So I'm gonna ask you a question. You're on this call. You're here to learn. So I want you to participate by writing, following the exercise I'm going to give you. I want you to write down on a piece of paper right now. Write it down. I'm not going to call on you. Nobody's going to ask you what you wrote down. I want you to write down one of your 3 biggest problems that you currently have. I'd like to keep it focused on business, even though you might have a problem with health or with relationships or peace of mind, whatever that is, spirituality. Focus it on business. And if you're listening to me, then go ahead and do it. Just write down on a piece of paper one of your 3 biggest problems. Most of us are really, really good at immediately identifying what the problem is. So that's it. The exercise is over. You can stop writing, even if you're not finished writing it down. I want you to think about whether or not what you wrote down is really the problem or is it really the symptom. And I'm going to reach back behind me because I'm going to do some drawing real quick on a piece of paper, and I'm going to reach back behind me, Loren. So just stay with me for 1 second.
You got it.
I'm going to do a little drawing on a piece of paper so that you'll be able to visualize what it is I'm going to talk about. What most of us do is we're far too quick to identify what we think is the problem. And here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Even though you don't believe me yet, I'm going to suggest to you that whatever it is you just wrote down, regardless of who you are, whatever it is you just wrote down is probably not the underlying problem. Watch this. So I'm going to draw a straight line across my piece of paper, and I'm going to call that the is line. The is line. This is the way it looks. This is reality. This is the truth about my situation. And I happen to think that one of the problems most of us have is that we do a relatively sorry job of actually figuring out what the truth about our current situation actually is. So this is an is line, and here comes an ought line. This is the way I would like for it to look. I'm going to call that ought. So it's is, and I'm going to get that so you can see it. It's is and it's ought. This is, the ought line is our goals. This is our wishful thinking. Most of us are goal-setting fools. We're great at setting goals. We're great at knowing what we want. We tend to suck a little bit about achieving those goals, but we're really, really adept at setting them. And for most people, their goal setting revolves around wishful thinking. You know, they step on the bathroom scales, they weigh 5 pounds too much, they look at the number on the scales, they go, oh, God, I wish I weighed 5 pounds less. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll make that a goal. That's about all the thought that goes into most people's goal setting. When you look at the is line and the ought line, the difference between those two lines is the symptom. That's the symptom, not the problem. This is the way it's showing up. So you say, well, I don't weigh the right amount, or I don't have enough customers. I don't have a big enough network. My revenues aren't high enough. If only my conversions were 30% better. Every single one of those is a symptom, not the problem. Look, it's why, when you think about it, it's why when you make a weight, and I use weight only because, you know, it's something I think about for me, and it's something that most people that I know have thought about in their own lives, and it's such an easy example. If I say to myself, Keith, you need to lose 5 pounds, the very first thing I'm likely to do is say, okay, should I buy Oprah's newest diet book, or should I join a gym, or do I need a home elliptical trainer? If I just had a home elliptical trainer, that would enable me to lose the 5 pounds. If I just had a trainer at my gym, if I just joined another gym, maybe the problem is I don't have the right book. I'm not following the right diet plan. And so maybe what I need to do, and so we wind up being very, very tactical in figuring out what to do next, instead of asking the question, what's the difference between where I am and what I'd like to have, which is how you just identified whatever problem you wrote down. That is showing up as the symptom, and the real problem sits right here. The real problem is the obstacle that's in the way, that's preventing you from moving your is line up. What needs to happen to improve your situation? Ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results. What can I do today to improve my situation? What's the obstacle that's sitting right here that's preventing your is line from moving towards your ought line? And so this idea of getting clarity around, is what I've identified as the problem, is that really the problem, or is that really the symptom, and I need to do some more thinking about what the problem actually is? Here's the bottom line. When you build a machine to solve the problem that isn't, you make no forward progress. You waste resources, you waste time, you waste money, you waste your talent. And the bulk of the people that I know that are stuck, or the bulk of the people I know that hit some sort of ceiling or plateau with their business, are practicing the wrong thing. They've misidentified the problem. They said, okay, well, if I want to lose weight, if I want to lose 5 pounds, all I got to do is buy a Peloton. If I just had a Peloton, and yet if you look at the one ads, if you go on eBay, probably one of the largest sections in eBay is lightly used, never used home exercise gear. It's because people say, well, if I just had a piece of equipment, I'd get in shape. And in reality, it's not about the exercise equipment. That's a tactical solution. And what I need to be thinking about in my business is what is the real obstacle? So here it comes. Loren, I'm going to turn it over to you in 1 second. Here it comes. If I ask you, based on what you just heard, if I ask you now to identify what's the real problem, not what is the symptom, not what's the gap. What I don't care about the gap. The gap just tells me that there's some obstacle. Watch this. If there is no gap between where I am and where I want to be, then there is no problem. The only way that there can be a problem is if there's a gap between where I am and what I want. And what my job is as a business owner, as somebody who wants to improve, as somebody who wants to get better, my job is to identify what is the true core root problem and then build a machine to address that, as opposed to building a machine to address the gap. They're two different things. And it's probably one of the most common mistakes that I see people, whether they're in business or not, it's one of the most common mistakes that I see. Shoot, it's one of the most common mistakes that I still make. I tend to be very quick at thinking I've figured out the real problem because I can see the gap, when in reality, the gap is just something that tells me, okay, I'm not where I want to be. There must be something blocking me. I wonder what that is.
Hey, Keith, that's great. It's Josh. Just wanted to kind of, I don't know where she is, but I was going to ask a question.
I'm here, but go ahead. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead, ask a question.
Going off of that, I know you talk a lot about thinking time at the 4-day MBA. Is that one of the ways that you feel that people could, identify that problem? And if you could
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. I was, I'll tell a quick story. I was at a meeting 30 years ago. I was at a meeting with the most powerful man on Wall Street at the time. And there was somebody knocked on the door during our meeting and interrupted it. And this guy I was meeting with made the comment that he didn't know the answer right then, but he'd have the answer 2 days later after he did some thinking time. And it was the first time I had ever heard of that concept. You already are familiar with this concept because you know about a book that has sold 80 million copies. It was written 75 years ago. It is considered to be the Bible in business. The name of the book is Think and Grow Rich. The name of the book is not use your emotion, your gut, your glands, and your intuition and grow rich. The name of the book is not light the incense, dim the lights, hold hands, sing kumbaya, and a sack full of money is going to fall on your head and grow rich. That's not the name of the book. It's Think. And it's extraordinarily powerful, and most of us don't do it. Most of us react. Most of us don't plan. We spend the majority of our day in a doing mode instead of a thinking mode. And here's the most powerful man on Wall Street who I happen to overhear discussing his need to have a thinking time before he gives somebody the answer. Probably the hardest thing I do, and I do thinking time. It's built into my rituals, into my calendar. I do it 3 times a week for 45 minutes a session. I talk about the protocols and rituals I have in my book. That's one of the chapters, one of the 50 chapters. The key to thinking time is to start with a problem. Start with a question. Write down on a piece of paper a really, really good question. I think one of the problems that most people have when they start thinking time is they don't know what to think about. And so the key to thinking time is designing a very powerful question and then sitting quietly with a pen and a piece of paper, not your computer, a pen and a piece of paper. Your computer's off, your phone is off, the door is closed, no interruptions. You just have 30 minutes to sit and think about a question. I think one of the hardest things I do as a businessman, one of the hardest questions I ask myself when I'm thinking about why I'm not where I want to be in some aspect of my life is figuring out what is the core root obstacle, the problem that's blocking my forward progress. And it all comes down to asking an exceptionally powerful question. The name of the book is The Road Less Stupid. The Road Less Stupid. I'm going to get it so you.
We're going to be giving some away tonight, and so it'll be awesome giving some away tonight. So
good.
So go ahead.
No, I started to say, Loren, I think the ritual of thinking time. I've said, you probably have heard me say this. I think you could take away all my money, all my skills, all my tools, and if the only thing you left me was thinking time, I think I could get it back. That's how fundamental and powerful I think that is. The key is in the question. I'll say that a different way. I think smart people have great answers. I think geniuses have great questions. There's a very cool story about Albert Einstein, who obviously a very smart dude, was a professor at Princeton University for 20 years at the height of his career. At the end of the third semester, Albert's fellow professors came to him and said, "Dude, they're on to you." And Albert said, "What do you mean?" And his peers said that the students have stopped studying for your final exams because you keep giving them the same question over and over for 3 straight semesters. They stop studying because they know what's coming. They're smart. They said, "You got to change it up on these kids." And Albert said, "I'm not going to change the question. I'm going to keep asking the same question." And he did for 20 straight years. And his fellow professors looked at him and said, "Albert, why aren't you changing the question up?" And he said, "The problem is not the question. The problem is the answers keep on changing." I want you to write that down. If you're listening to me right now, write that down. The key is to get the right question because the answers keep on changing. You stop and think about it. Loren, what is taking for you and your team to be successful today at Juice Plus is different than the way it was 5 years ago. Shoot, it's different than the way it was 10 years ago. I happen to be, I don't know if this is good or bad. I'm going to think it's good. I happen to be friends with Jeff Roberti. I think Jeff is a smart guy. And I'm going to tell you what it took for Jeff to be successful when he first started is very different than what it takes for Jeff to be successful today. Jeff is a very, very dear friend, and I've known him for 15 years, and I've watched how his business has evolved, how he's grown. And the reason Jeff is so successful, Loren, a lot of your success is attributable to you continuing to learn, you continuing to ask the core question and then figuring out what are the new answers that I need to implement or execute today that are going to be different than it was last year, 5 years ago, 15 years ago. It's changing. And I got to be adaptable. Otherwise, I'm a dinosaur.
Totally agree. And that's I think that goes back to you talking about getting in line and staying in line. And you've seen so many businesses, people coming in and being a part of your events. What are I'm just curious because I think a lot of people don't realize some of the failures that you've had. What are some of the biggest failures you've had and what have you learned through those failures? Would you mind sharing those with us? I know that you talk about it at the 4 MBA and I would just love to know Because I think what happens, the biggest challenge, maybe my favorite line, I think it's really helped me in my business, is when times got tough with Juice Plus, whether it be life situations, the recession, whatever happened, I really kept coming back to two things. And that was you saying, get in line and stay in line. And Jeff and Cheryl saying to me, 3 to 5 years. Because I think a lot of people might see either instant success or no success, and then they get out of line. So could you talk a little bit about that as well?
I can. Can I draw again? Is that okay? Were you guys
Sure.
able to see that?
Love
okay?
it. Yep.
This is where I wish I had a flip chart. So I'm going to do this. I know there's a glare, and I'll try to point this so there's not a glare. If I ask you what this is, I'm drawing right now, and then I'll look and make sure that you can see it in the monitor. If I ask you what this is, it'd be hard to know, but I'm going to tell you what this is. This is a cafeteria, and these are all the people in line at the cafeteria, and this is where you get the silverware and the tray, and then you can get some salad and a meat and some vegetables and a water. And this is where you pay right here. This is the cash register. And I want you to think about something. If life is like a cafeteria line, then you look at the line and you know a couple things are true. Number one, the people at the front of the line right here started at the back of the line. Every single person who's at the front of the line started at the back of the line. And the way they got to the front of the line is they got in line at the back of the line and they stayed in line. Number two is you know that the people at the front of the line did not cut. They didn't cut in line. You can't walk into a cafeteria and decide that you want to come in right here and cut in line. You can't cut in line. Shoot, if you try to cut in line at a cafeteria, there's going to be some 90-year-old woman who's got blue hair and a big handbag who's going to beat you senseless if you try to cut in line. So you can't cut in line. The only way to get to the front of the line is to get in the back of the line and then stay in line. If you get in line and stay in line, you have an opportunity to get into the front of the line. Now watch this. Every single person that you admire, every single person that you look up to, where you go, oh God, I wish I could be like her. I wish I had what he has. I really admire them. Every single person that you admire, without exception, started at the back of the line. Every single one. There are no exceptions. We admire Bill Gates, but none of us know anything about Bill Gates' kids. Bill Gates' kids were born on third base. They already had an advantage that I mean, they may wind up being famous and doing something with their lives, but the reality is we know Warren Buffett, not his kids, but Warren Buffett is at the front of the line. The way he got there, check this out. Most people don't know this. Warren Buffett worked 11 years before he made his first $1 million. 11 years. If I held a seminar today and said how to make $1 million in only 11 years, hell, nobody'd come. Nobody wants to work for 11 years, and yet here's the guy, that's 85 years old who's been a billionaire for the last 40 years of his life. The way he did that is not by starting at the end at the cash register. He started right here at the back of the line. Now let me show you what most of us do. What most of us do is we're really good at getting in line. Shoot, we've done it 100 times in our lives. 100 different times we've figured out something that we want. We get in line, a little bit of time goes by, we're making some progress, and then all of a sudden we look around and go, oh God, this is taking forever. I'll never get to the front of the line. Oh my God, I wonder if there's a better line I should be in. And so we glance over here and we see this little shiny penny over here. We see something different, something new. We hear about something. It's a new shiny, bright kind of thing. And so instead of staying in line, we get out of line and go over here and check out this little shiny thing that we've just seen over here. And we play with it for 2 or 3 or 6 months or a year. And then all of a sudden we go, no, that wasn't it. And we can't, we say, well, let me get back in line. Remember what I said? You can't cut in line. You can't cut in line. So when you get out of line, you got to start all over again at the back of the line. So here we go. We get in line. We see something better, and we figure this is taking too long. It's going to take forever. My God, I'll never get there. We get out of line. We play with this new shiny thing. That's not the right thing. We got to get back in line at the end of the line. Most of us spend our entire lives doing this. We never get to the front of the line because we refuse to pay the price. We refuse to do the work. We refuse to make the sacrifice that's required in order to get to the front of the line. We live in an eat what you kill world, and what most people are killing is time. Most people are killing time because they're in and out of line. The reason Jeff Roberti is at the front of the line, the reason that Loren is at the front of the line, you look at anybody you admire, and the reason they're at the front of the line is because they got in line, they did the work, they stayed in line, they stayed with it, they stayed with it, they stayed with it. Warren Buffett stayed with it for 11 years to make the first million, not billion, million. You look at Steve Jobs, look at Michael Dell. They didn't start their businesses to necessarily be rich, although they turned out that way. Shoot, when Steve Jobs started Apple Computer, he gave his former boss, the guy he quit working for to go start Apple, his name is Nolan Bushnell. He invented something called Pong, for those of you that are as old as I am. So Nolan Bushnell invented Pong. Steve Jobs used to work for him. Steve Jobs quit to go start Apple. He didn't have any money. He went to Nolan Bushnell and said, do you want to invest $50,000 in Apple? And Nolan Bushnell said, and Steve said, and I'll give you a third of the company, a third of Apple for $50,000. And Nolan Bushnell said, no, I'm not going to do it. I just can't see that this is ever going to work. Nolan Bushnell left $300 billion on the table. Look, Steve Jobs didn't know it was coming. Bill Gates didn't know it was coming. The Google boys didn't know it was coming. All they did, the reason those guys are at the front of the line is because they got in line at the back of the line and they stayed in line. They did the work and they got to the front of the line. And they're now eating very, very well.
It's funny because I don't know if you know this. Nolan Bushnell, his daughter Alyssa Bushnell was one of my best friends. I met Nolan about 27 years ago, and like you said, the whole Pong thing. He says, Steve, go work on that Pong thing. You're too creative. Like I think he talks about it in the movie The Jobs, right? He tells the guy to tell him to go out there. Yep. And he started like Chuck E. Cheese. Everything was just, he wasn't like on the right. He was jumping around too. I think Nolan was a big thing with Nolan, right? Because with Atari and the whole thing. So I have a question. What's the one thing most business owners aren't currently doing? If they started to do it, they would see exponential growth.
Look, I think there's I think probably one of the most powerful things any of us can do is to be consistent with our execution and make sure that we're executing on the things that will move the needle. I think, said another way, I think one of the most powerful things either one of us could do, Loren, is to get crystal clear on the critical few priorities. I call them majors. What are the one or two things that if you prioritized and allocated the appropriate amount of resources, bandwidth, time, effort? Look, I'll tell you, I think one of the biggest mistakes most of us make in business, we make it in every aspect of our lives, is we tend to multitask. We tend to, as opposed to prioritize, we tend to work on the trivial many instead of the critical few. If I ask you this question, what one thing that if you committed to it and executed on it consistently, what one thing could you do that would make the biggest difference in your business in the next 30, 60, 90 days? What one thing? I think what we do is we wind up trying to figure out 50 things. And so as a result, we're not good or don't put in the appropriate amount of effort on any of them. I'm sitting in my office and I have a bottle of water sitting in front of me. What most of us do throughout our day or our week or our quarter is we touch everything in our office. If I look behind me at the stuff on my credenza, I could reach around and every day touch every one of those pictures or mementos or book covers or whatever it is. I could touch every one of them. The problem is there's been no threshold effort. Write that word down. Threshold effort. What's the amount of effort that's required to take this bottle that is sitting on my desk and actually to move it, as opposed to the amount of effort it takes to touch it? Those are two different things. And so I'm going to suggest that I think one of the most important things any of us could do is figure out what's the priority and what's the level of effort, the level of commitment, what's the persistence I need, who's going to hold me accountable. I think there's three keys to being successful. I think it's true in any business. It's true in your businesses, Loren. It's true in your husband's. It's true in my business. It's true for Jeff Roberti. It's true for Michael Dell. These three things are critical. Number one, what's the priority? What's the outcome? What's the thing that over the next 30, 60, 90 days, I think another mistake we make is we tend to make our goals too long. And so we get a pass for not doing anything for the first 11 months of the year, as opposed to saying, wait a minute, what do I need to do? What am I trying to accomplish in the next week? What, do I need to add 3 new people? Do I need to have 15 new conversations? Do I need to script my presentation? Is that going to be the thing? What needs to happen to add 3 more people in the next week, 5 more people in the next month? What's the one thing that would move the needle? Not 50. I know 50 things could do it. What's the one thing I could do? And make sure that that one thing is consistently executed. So number one, what's the priority? Number 2, plan my day. I think you're dead if you don't plan your day. If you don't plan your day, I plan my weeks. So I work in chunks of time. I write and I read, and Sandy and I, my wife and I, will travel. We just got back from 18 days in Cabo playing golf every day. But all of that was structured into my calendar. And now that I'm back, from all that. Okay, good. I've got some work I need to do, but I've got my calendar structured. I'm going to tell you this: a commitment to do something without simultaneously getting it on your calendar is wishful thinking. I'm not medieval about it. I'll allow for some flexibility and some things to encroach, but I got to have a chunk of time where I'm working on the critical things, and that's my calendar, making sure that I remain consistent. I think what that means is plan your day before it starts. That's another way to say this. Plan your day before it starts. Plan your week before it starts. Otherwise, I promise you, you're going to spend your entire week, your entire day, your entire month reacting to what's urgent or doing what you think is interesting and fun, as opposed to doing what's necessary and required in order to move the needle. Number one, let's get clarity around the outcome, the deliverable. Number two, let's plan our day, plan our week, set the calendar, and then number three is accountability. I think without accountability, my brain is way too powerful. So's yours. I can dream up a million excuses and a million justifications for why I didn't get my exercise in today, for why I didn't have 3 more calls today, for why I didn't do the things that I know that need to be done in order to move the needle. I can dream up a million reasons. Here's the key. There is no such thing as a rich victim. There's other kinds of victims, but you'll never find a rich victim. The people who have been successful have been clear about their priorities. They have calendarized. They've put structure into their life so that they can make sure that they're working, allocate the appropriate amount of time to the critical few. And then they've got somebody they're accountable to who will tell them, hey, you're not getting it done. You're not putting in the appropriate amount of effort, or nice job. You did do the right things, but maybe you just didn't do it with enough intensity, or maybe this part needs to be tweaked. Accountability is key. In other words, have a coach. Have a coach that will tell you the truth. That's one of the things I admire about Jeff Roberti. It's one of the things I admire about Loren, is you got somebody around you who will tell you the truth. I'm just like you. I can't tell I have bad breath until somebody offers me a mint. That's how I know. Tiger Woods, probably one of the best golfers that's ever lived. When he goes to play golf, he's got coaches around him. He's got people around him to watch him swing, to tell him, look, Tiger, here's what you can do better. You said you were going to practice 3 hours today. You didn't get it in. What up, buddy? If you want to win the tournament, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to get in line and stay in line. But if Tiger, after 5 months after he started playing golf, would have said, oh my God, I'm never going to get good at this game. I'll never break par. I'll never hit a hole in one. I'll never make a living at playing golf. I think what I need to do is go play ping pong. And so then, if he would have done that and then switched from ping pong into downhill slalom racing, and then switched to competitive swimming, and then would have switched to working on Wall Street, and then would have decided to work for Juice Plus, and then 3 months after he joined Juice Plus, he would have said, no, I tell you what I need a different kind of, maybe I need to go to graduate school. I mean, all that bouncing around is what kills people. So instead of doing the work,
What's up?
people instead of doing the work, people look for an easier way. And I'm going to say this. This will be the conclusion of this thought, Loren. You can't commit if you're still looking. That's true in business. That's true in relationships. That's true with your life. You can't commit if you're still going to look. And what most people look for is the easier, faster, no fuss, no muss, no sweat kind of way to achieve success. And yet, if you think about every single person that you admire, every single one of the people who are at the front of the line put in the cycles. They put in the work. They got in line. They stayed in line. They did what needed to be done. They practiced. They got better. They figured out the obstacles that are in the way. They did the work, and they got to the front of the line.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. Just, circling back to what you just said, staying on that line, staying on that path. If you could just talk a little bit about, your new book and that path less stupid, and just kind of, the bullet points, what you want people to know about it. And then we'll go ahead and give some away to some people over here.
I love that. Since I'm the artist who created this book, the name of the book is The Road Less Stupid, Advice from the Chairman of the Board, Avoiding the Dumb Mistakes that Sabotage Growth, Profits, and Business Success. So this book was 45 years in the making. That's how long it took me to write it, because that's how long it took me to live it and learn the lessons that I needed to learn in order to create the results that I have. What I want you to know about the book is that you need to own it. You need to read it. You can get it from us at keystothevault.com. You can email us at info@keystothevault.com. You can buy it on Amazon. Whatever you decide to do yourself a favor. I often tell people I'm not particularly smart, but I am wise, and it's because I've lived a long time and made a lot of mistakes. Something that I didn't talk about earlier is that I've made a fortune and lost it 2 different times. I've figured out there's a big difference between making it and keeping it. This time I'm keeping it. I had to learn those lessons the hard way. Whether you're trying to make it or you're trying to keep it, I would urge you to learn the lessons so that you don't have to make some of the same mistakes and pay some of the same dumb tax that me and many other people have made in the process of creating the success that we have. KeysToTheVault.com, Amazon, The Road Less Stupid.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Well, on behalf of me, my mom, and everyone else on the line, that was amazing. We really appreciate it. Well,
Can you ask about the 4-day MBA program, Joss? I'm back, but can you just ask when the next?
Yeah. When's the next 4-day MBA? Because I think a lot of people should go to that for sure.
Well, so thank you for that. I teach the 4-day MBA 2 times a year here in Austin, Texas, which is not a shabby place to come visit. I speak to 30 or 40,000 business owners a year. I have for the last 15 years. I'm a teacher, not necessarily a speaker. You could probably tell that by this presentation. I teach. That's what I do. The most frequent question I get as I'm speaking and teaching to business owners around the world is, Keith, how do I grow my business and make more money? When you stop and think about it, that's the whole point of getting an MBA. How do you grow what you got, and how do you make more money? And so I've condensed that topic down to 4 days. Our next one is in September. You can go to our website and keystothevault.com and find out the dates. There'll probably be 150, 180 people in the room. I teach 100% of it. I figure that you want the hay before it's been through the horse, and so I'm the teacher. And if you enjoyed or found valuable what we did for the last hour or so on this call, I can tell you, if you like this, you're going to love the 4-day MBA. It's me doing 4 straight days of what are the strategies, what are the skills, what are the tools that will enable you to not only grow your business, but also make more money. I'll tease you with 4 questions you should ask yourself if you want to grow your business. These are the 4 core questions. Ignore these questions at your peril. Number 1, who do I want to buy from me? That's your target. And the more clear you are on that, the faster you'll get to your outcome. Number 2, what must happen to cause them to buy? Who do I want to buy from me? What must happen to cause them to buy? Number 3, what must happen to cause them to come back? It doesn't do any good for me to sell them once. I need them to come back for seconds and thirds and fifths and hundreds. What must happen to keep them coming back? And number 4, what might happen to cause them not to say yes? I need clarity around those 4 questions. Who's my target? Who do I want to buy from me? What must happen to cause them to buy? What must happen to cause them to come back for fifths and tenths? And what could happen, what might happen to cause that target who needs what I got, what could happen to cause them to say, I don't know. Maybe, I'm not sure. No, this isn't the right fit. And every one of us have heard that. Okay, that's a tease.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the friendship with Loren, Jeff, and so many others in your organization. I think what y'all are doing is exceptional, and I look forward to supporting you in any way that I possibly can. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. And just so you guys know, from Becky Faye to Debbie Trihorn, I just took a picture. We'll give you guys some books. So we'll message you on Facebook or something. But from Becky Faye, Ben Matthews, Brandy Herber, Brian Redmond, Candace Gruber, Carolina Milet, Christina G. Davidson, Craig, Kristen Wimpfiller, and Debbie Trihorn. Just stay on the line and I'll get you guys' info. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith.
Grateful for your time and your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you, Keith.
That was amazing.
Thank you, Keith. That was amazing.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very good information.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Mm.